Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here on Play on GAA with me, Seamus, Brady, your host, and for this I'm joined by Luke Peyton and Matthew Hurley, the GAA Statsman, and we're just going to give a recap of all the action which took place in the club championship over the last weekend. Luke, obviously I've been chatting to you for a good bit off air. Matt, how are you keeping? How's the work at the Southern Star going, and how are you finding the club championship?
Yeah, all good now. Quieting down now. We're basically doing interview reviews and stuff like that. Hopefully, a few West Cork people will do well in the Irish sports awards at least. But yeah, it's raining outside. It's windy. It's everything. And my club went out of the junior championship yesterday as well. So the season is really coming to an end, and hopefully the provincial championships live up to the billing because they're Leinster championship games on Saturday. I'm really looking forward to those. Looking forward to just watching at the couch for a change rather than going on the sideline and reporting on games at least.
Yeah, no, 100%. We're going to start, lads, with the action from the Ulster Club Championship. All four Ulster quarterfinals took place over the weekend. The first one, the one that really jumped off the page straight away, was the meeting between Waddy Graham's Glen and Errigal Kieran, champions of Derry versus champions of Tyrone. I mean, you're talking about an Errigal Kieran side that have come out of probably the most competitive, certainly in terms of statistics, the most competitive club championship in the country. 10 different winners in the last 10 seasons. Errigal Kieran winning the title this year. The Glen, obviously back-to-back champions in Derry now. This was a real case of the Glen hanging in there in the first half. In the first half that they were not particularly on top in. I mean, Errigal Kieran hit 7 out of the last 8 points of the first half. You know, Errigal Kieran hit by 2 sucker punches, 2 goals at key stages. Matt, I'll come to you for the first one. Do you think the first goal should have stood? Conor Glass floats the ball in, wing forward, Conor Convery shoulders the Errigal Kieran goalkeeper, ball ends up in the net and the goal stands.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, yeah, I'd probably come to goal, give the forward the benefit of the doubt there. Like, it was a one of them situations where you just have to allow the goal to go in, really. But in an overall sense, like Glen were probably the better team. Like they had more energy in them going down the home stretch. Like Errigal Kieran, like I didn't expect them to put up this big performance, to be honest with you. Look at Tyrone, like the Tyrone championship is competitive, but looking at it over the last few seasons, a lot of teams go into the championship team from Tyrone and don't do particularly well. So Errigal Kieran did do well, and in the odds, Glen were second for the All-Ireland. So they got their campaign off to a brilliant start. They have brilliant players all over the field. And they'd be my bet probably to go all the way, probably win the All-Ireland. They probably get to the final, to be honest with you. At least probably against Kilmacud Crokes. So this is good. And the thing is, rather than Kilmacud Crokes, they're getting games that they're competitive now because Errigal Kieran on the first game, Cargan will be a difficult team as well, probably Kilcoo in the final, whereas Kilmacud Crokes are probably going to the latter stages of the All-Ireland if they get that far in hold. So Glen, I think, will have an advantage there going to the All-Ireland final. But yeah, it's baby steps at the moment for Glen, and this is the first step towards a very good win for them.
Yeah, and certainly not baby steps there from yourself in terms of predictions for who's going to be in that final. I mean, me and Aaron were having a joke there. How many teams so far in the club championship have we said, God, that team looks great. You know, they have an inter-county spine running down and they get knocked out the next week of the club championship by the next team that they play, who then become the next team. I mean, off the top of my head, how many teams have looked great? I mean, Mount Bellew, Westport, Nemo Rangers, that have all had one game where they broke through only to be knocked out the next round. Then the other one as well, obviously, Luke, there were 2 other goals in the first half. One coming from Alex Doherty, that was the Glen, but that was after Tommy Canavan had hit that goal for Errigal Kieran. And going into the end of half time, those, as I mentioned, 7 out of the last 8 points were kicked by Errigal Kieran. Rory and Dara Canavan were absolutely to the fore there. Did you think that they were going to probably go on to win, given the position they were in at halftime?
Look, it's an interesting one because like they defended so well in the first half. When you limit the Glen to only a point in the first half as well, like I think they would have absolutely bit your hand off for at the start. But conceding 2 goals in the first half, and in a game when you only concede 3 scores in the first half, the fact that 2 of them are goals is an absolute sickener. And I know that they're going in kind of 4 points up there as well, but the fact that they shipped that as well, they knew that the Glen were going to come back out as well. Look, the Glen kind of worked it out pretty quickly. That the first half, like you talked already about that start as well, that I think they were quite happy, Errigal Kieran, to just leave Rory and Derek Canavan up there on their own, and just to say, like, everybody else is dropping back and the two lads are going to do enough damage up front. And in the first half they did. Then the Glen adapted really well. And once they adapted well, look, they took over. But I really think I was actually surprised in how close it was and how good a game the Glen got here. I thought the Glen were going to be too powerful for them. I thought Ergo Kieran in year one would maybe, like, despite having like some top players like Peter Hart and just a really, really strong spine, I thought that the Glen were going to maybe blow them away a little bit. So look, I think full credit for Ergo Kieran for the performance. I thought they played really, really well, really put it up to them as well. And look, they're a team they're definitely going to be building in the coming years. And I think they'll be quite satisfied with their performance as well. And looking, if they can get out of Tyrone again, they're going to keep getting better each year, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, like, I agree 100% what you said on a previous episode, that Ergo Kieran have the makings to break this spell of, you know, a new champion every year in Tyrone, because they have the Canavans, they have Peter Hart, they have this really, really strong crop of lads coming through there. And I agree that, look, they made the changes at halftime. They got so much stronger. Matt, did you notice anything in particular? I know Ethan Doherty's goal was huge. And then the points off the bench, Stevie O'Hara hit 2 crucial points at clutch stages. And Emmett Bradley's point as well was brilliant. But was there anything in particular that you noticed that was really the swinging of the game from Ergo Kieran back to the Glen?
Looking at this, when the scores actually came, that was probably the main thing. And I counted 1-8 came in the second half for Glen, and that's an incredible statistic actually, because let's not forget we're in conditions where it's rainy, it's windy, and they score 1-8 in the second half. I mean, it's a decent Ergo Kieran team as well. So I think that probably swung the game in a way, and probably the goals of the first half that really killed Ergo Kieran off. Well, Ergo Kieran chipped away at the points. They were still doing well enough, and then Glen just powered home, and probably it was their strength and conditioning that got them over the line. And this is why I think they'll do well in All Ireland series. They're a bit like Kilcoo, they're a bit like maybe the Donegal teams from 2012 as well. The power they have, the pace they have, the strength they have, they can go for full 60 minutes, 70 if necessary as well. If this was inter-county, they're not going to be team Glen. So I think they're a decent note to crack. And it wasn't as if Ergo Kieran played badly. I just think they were beaten by a better team on the day. Glen are an outstanding team. And the fact they won by 4 points, a decent team up at the odds of Paddy Power, the fact that Ergo Kieran only got to 4 points probably shows they're a team that's going in the right direction in Tyrone. They'll probably win it again next year if they keep their confidence up. Like, if they, well, I suppose, like, you know what the club championship, and especially with Tyrone, once you get one game and then you're gone completely if you lose it. So that's a big thing, really. Yeah, but I think Ergo Kieran are heading in the right direction. But for now, I think Glen, their power, pace, and their second half performance ultimately won the game.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. One thing I was so impressed with as well was the Glen's determination right down to the last second. I mean, I know it's an old cliche. I know it's a thing that any pundit can say about any team, especially when they come out on the right side of the result. But there was one moment at the end of the game, the cornerback for the Glen, Conor Carville, he intercepted an Ergo Kieran attack. He laid the ball off. And then if you watch it back, he sprints from basically his own 13-yard line to get all the way up into the Glen full forward line. He ended up in a 2-on-1, and his other partner in that was Conor Glass. And I don't know how they didn't put the ball into the back of the net to finish Ergo Kieran off once and for all. But it ended up with a Stevie O'Hara point. But that sprint by Carville, Luke, that really showed to me just there is something different about the Glen this year. I just feel like the fact that, as Conor Glass put it in the post-match interview, there was only one mistake between them and Kilcoo last season. I feel like they have a real chip on their shoulder this year as well, considering they came so close last season to going so much further.
Yeah, look, I keep saying it, is that I think teams kind of need a year to I suppose, to get their foot in provincial and just understand what provincial's like and how to win those games. And look, the Glen have got that now. They've seen Kilcoo in the flesh last year as well. They'll have learned a lot from that game. They've probably, you could say that they've probably improved this year too, I'd say. So, no, I think they'll be quite happy with where they're at the moment. Like, the other thing, that's going to really stand them, that game against Ergo Kieran. That's a proper game. They have to come through there as well. Kilcoo, like, fairly eased past Ballybay. We'll be getting to that soon enough as well. They didn't really get much of a game against Ballybay. It was nearly double scores they bet them by. So, look, there'll be, I know like, we are jumping a few steps ahead here, that the fact is that they will have to play Carrigan next. But look, I think not many people will be betting on Carrigan, I suppose, in that. So look, I do think it probably is fair to say kind of that to eye up that Kilcoo match. And even in the interview afterwards, Conor Glass afterwards, when he was asked about it, like he obviously gave credit to Carrigan and said, look, they'll be up next and stuff as well. But look, they were that the Glen as a unit are looking at Kilcoo and do want to get that rematch to try and I suppose overturn the result last year.
Yeah, and you mentioned obviously about Carrigan. They won their first ever club championship match outside of Antrim at senior level. I mean, what a day for them. Beating Naomh Conaill, obviously the Donegal champions. They did it on penalties. They finished 2-13 each after extra time. And notably, Matt, we have to give a huge shout out to Kevin McShane. Twice he saved Aaron's own Carrigan. I mean, the first time was at the end of full time. In the 6th minute of additional time, he palms home a goal after Tomas McCann's shot dropped short. And then with the last kick of extra time, he levels it from a free, sending it to extra time after it looked like Jack McKelvey had given Naomh Conaill the win. Naomh Conaill surely must be sick how they didn't put it to bed one of the times.
Yeah, I suppose so, but you're on the ball there with Kevin McShane. He's a fullback and he scores 1-1. I mean, that's absolutely incredible. I see the clip of the goal actually. Like, it was amazing scenes, really. Like, it was a pandemonium in the penalty area. Like, it was a hopeful ball put in by McCann, really, and he just palmed it home. It was a brilliant goal. But the fact that Naomh Conaill allows not once but twice to get the medal, I mean, they lost on penalties. I mean, they will feel terrible now last night. They'll be drawing their souls goal. But it probably rams home the point as well, lads. I don't know, do you agree with penalty shootouts? Like, I agreed with it at the start of COVID. Like, I was thinking you'd be excited for the GAA, but it probably proves it. Like, Naomh Conaill basically won the game twice, and they're now out of the Ulster Championship because of basically kicking a ball off a spot. You know, I mean, it's a bit wrong in my opinion. Like, I've been involved in penalty shootouts as well, in a coaching sense, and I watched them for Galway Armagh as well. There was a bit of an injustice there as well. So, yeah, I'm against it. I'm not so jinxing that, but I'm really against penalty shootouts. The more it's gone on, and as the years have gone on.
Yeah, no, I don't know, Luke. What do you want to think about that?
Well, look, I've always kind of had this idea that I'd prefer to see a golden goal type thing, that where the ball's thrown back up in the middle of the pitch. And like, yeah, the argument I think is that look, it probably wouldn't work in hurling because look, you can score from anywhere in hurling. But like in football, I'd love to see a golden goal type thing where it would be absolute pandemonium, I suppose, in trying to just doing everything to not concede that score. So like, I think that would be something I'd like to see. And look, I do think it'd be better entertainment for spectators, and I think as well probably be a fairer kind of thing when you're looking at Gaelic football as well. I think penalty shootouts don't really reflect Gaelic football skills. I don't think they only capture a small part of it as well, whereas if you continued on with that, it's actually something that's more fitting into the game, not something we're taking from another sport.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. That's definitely a good shout going forward for the future. There was one moment, though, look, I'll come back to for this, where I really thought the game was dead and buried for Aaron's own Carrigan. That was the 49th minute, of course. They got a black card. Keelan McGill was black carded. And then basically straight after, Naomh Conaill had the ball in the back of the net from John O'Malley. And considering that Naomh Conaill would have been the favourites, for Aaron's own Carrigan to get a player black carded and then a goal to go in straight after, you know, with 10 minutes to go, surely, I mean, how they managed to get back into that game, massive credit to them.
Yeah, look, I think, you have to say that, massive credit to them as well. But look, it's like I think it's Naomh Conaill, like they must be absolutely sick, and that look they've been in Ulsters before, and they should have the experience kind of in these type of games. And that look, you look at some of the players in that team as well, plenty of experience. Players have won all Irelands and everything as well. That it's pretty staggering, I suppose, for them to not have got over the line, I suppose, in this. But like, look, I think the form kind of the Donegal teams just kind of suggested something like this was maybe coming, because when you look at the standards kind of maybe of the Donegal final, it was very dramatic and everything like that, but it wasn't at the same level. Very low scoring game. The quality probably wasn't the same as the other Ulster finals, I suppose, that you're watching. So yeah, look, I think everybody probably expected them to get over Carrigan. Like, Carrigan was probably the lowest ranked team in Ulster coming into this as well. But look, I'm not hugely shocked, but based on, look, I don't think that the Donegal club scene is probably quite as strong as where it has been in previous years. So yeah, look, I think they'll be very disappointed, and look, they'll be obviously gutted about O'Donnell not playing as well. That's a huge factor in there too. That look, they're probably their best player as well, not around, and then they lose in penalties. So look, that has to be considered a factor too.
Yeah, no doubt. Then obviously another giant made their way into the Ulster semi-finals. Kilcoo, the defending champions, 2-14. Ballybay, the champions of Monaghan, 1-7. An absolute statement victory from Kilcoo. And, definitely a statement to every other team, because, I have to hold my hands up and say that I was looking at them limping through the Down Championship, to be honest. They needed penalties to get through one round. I can't remember off the top of my head what round that was, but they looked like they could be caught in the Down Championship at various stages. And then they get into the Ulster Championship. They come up against the Ballybay side that had beaten a really fancy Crossmaglen Rangers outfit and beaten them handily. And then they put down a 10-point beating on Ballybay. Hugely impressive from the champions.
Yeah, very impressive. And again, I have to hold my hands up as well. Like I was saying on my page a few weeks ago, that this team is done. This Kilcoo team is finished. Even against the Bars last year, in the semi-final, the Bars should have had a few instances in the game, and more so in the Down Championship. I think it was Warrenpoint actually they went to penalty. I'm not entirely sure of which club it actually was. It may be Mayo Bridge. I don't know who it was. Maybe it was both. But yeah, they struggled through the Down Championship, and then they produced a brilliant performance this game. Jerome Johnson, I think, scored 2-2 in this. I think he's an outstanding footballer, probably one of the best footballers in the country, not to play inter-county for various reasons or what another. But it probably shows as well, lads, that the Down Championship isn't that bad. I think it might not be the best in quality, but it probably for getting teams out there in terms of players and stuff like that, it's probably up there with one of the best. Like the example that I give is Tyrone. The quality of it is incredible, and the skill levels and everything, and the drama in it, it's incredible. But once the Tyrone champions go into Ulster, they perform poorly. Well, Eric and Kieran, in fairness to them, perform well enough. But when you look at the Down teams, they actually do well in Ulster when you look through the years, especially Kilcoo. So, it's an incredible performance by Kilcoo. Ballybay will have to lick their wounds now. I'm not sure will they keep on your man, this Jerome Johnson Senior that quit the job before going into this game. I'm not sure what will happen there. But it's going to be interesting. But yeah, Kilcoo, statement of intent. And now they go into a semi-final against, I don't know, I think it's the Fermanagh team that they're facing next. So, yeah, it's going to be a probably easy route to a final again, and I really want a Glen Kilcoo final to see what this Kilcoo team can do this year, because yesterday they were outstanding.
Yeah, no, it relates back to what I was kind of saying earlier of how many teams have looked great one week and then poor the next. So I am saying that, look, Kilcoo looked great, but I want to see how they get on against Enniskillen Gales. Obviously, Enniskillen getting through that game against Gowna will come to them in a bit. Obviously, the start of the game, Luke, Ballybay got that penalty slotted away by Shane McGuinness. They were 8 points to 1-2 up at halftime. Kilcoo were. Then they got the goal from Ryan Johnston early in the second half, and that signaled a bit of a parting in the ways. In my opinion, Micheál Rooney knocks in basically the insurance goal, the icing on the cake, if you like. But realistically, right, do you think Kilcoo are as strong as they were last season? I know that they put in a great performance, but throughout the entire club championship, as I've said, so many teams have looked great in one round and then they haven't stepped up to the plate the next week. Do you think Kilcoo have the same hunger that maybe the Glen do?
Well, look, that's hard. It's hard to kind of say where their kind of hunger's at, I suppose, as well. Look, they're coming in defending as well. But look, I suppose you can only base off the performance out the weekend, and that. Look, I just think the two teams kind of match up with each other quite well, and that you look at when it comes to actual superstars. Yeah, maybe you say Conor Glass for the Glen, and then Jerome Johnson maybe for Kilcoo, and then outside of that, I'd say all the other players, they're good. They're very, very good system players, and that they know, both teams know their structures really, really well. You could say they pretty much play the game the same style, I'd say. I think the Glen are probably a little bit stronger at midfield. Well, I think the Glen's midfield is unmatched at club level in the country. And maybe I'd say that the Kilcoo full forward line is probably a little bit better than the Glen's. So that's the way I'm kind of looking at it coming in as well. That I think Kilcoo better forwards, but I think the Glen might have a better kind of midfield and better control over the game too. So I think those things, it makes for a very, very intriguing game and hard to call. Like, I do think that the Glen are making a lot of progress this year though, and I don't know, it's maybe kind of the popular choice at the moment to lean towards the Glen, but you can't write off Kilcoo, I suppose, based off that run last year as well, what they've done up in Ulster too as well. So look, I think I really, really think that will be the final. I know we're going to talk about Enniskillen and Gales in a bit, but I'd be absolutely shocked if they do turn over Kilcoo, and I do think we'll get that final.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with you there, 100%. And you mentioned Enniskillen Gales, they beat Gowna by one. No, they beat Gowna on penalties by 5 penalties converted to Gowna's 3. It was 117 to 214 after extra time. And the one thing, Matt, that you have to give Enniskillen, they have composure, because the two teams were neck and neck throughout the entire game. And then for the first time, like in the second minute of injury time, Enniskillen Gales fell behind for the first time, and they held their nerve. Owen Beacom hits over that free to send it into extra time. And then when extra time starts, Gowna quickly rattled off the first 3 points in the first 4 minutes of extra time. It was Keane Madden hit 2 and Connor Casey hit 1. But then Enniskillen Gales equalised. Ethan Beresford with 1 and Connor Love hit 2 to draw them right back. They showed time and time again serious composure, and then in penalties as well, converting their 5. Huge credit has to go to their mentality to get through this test.
Yeah, it has to definitely. They were outstanding in that way, and bounce back ability, like in club level as well, with the weather conditions and everything, to get back into the game. It's incredible. And what they have as well is a diamond up front, Connor Love. He scored 2-9 in 2 games, I think, for Enniskillen Gales. Like, he's incredible form. He scored 2-7 for play. It's incredible, really, and we knew he had this potential playing for Fermanagh. I knew he had the potential. He's a pretty good player. But it'll be interesting to see how Kilcoo deal with this guy, because he is an incredible footballer. And yeah, Gowna, they seem like a good team in Cavan, and they seem like a good team in this particular game here. But Enniskillen Gales, they kept at it, they kept on their quotas, and eventually won on penalties as well. And they score 5 penalties in a shootout as well. I know we're against penalties and all that, but it was an incredible performance on penalties as well. To score 5 out of 5, that's incredible, really, and it does show their composure. So think about it. Enniskillen Gales could put it up to Kilcoo. Like, if Kilcoo were on an off day, Enniskillen Gales have diamonds, as we said, in Connor Love. They do have the temperament. They do have the bounce back ability. They have everything on their side, really. They have good quality in their team. And Fermanagh teams usually make it tough in Ulster because they're usually defensive as well. So I wouldn't back against Enniskillen Gales, to be honest with you. I know Kilcoo will go in as big favourites in this game. But as we said previously, Kilcoo haven't performed well in the championship up until the Ballybay game yesterday, of course. So, like, there's a chance that they could take their eye off the ball, and Enniskillen could take advantage.
Yeah, no, without doubt. Luke, there's a question here in the box here for you. It's from the WW. Do you think that Enniskillen can beat Kilcoo? So say that you think that they can. How do you think they can best go about that?
Yeah, well, look, I think, like, Matt makes a good point there, that, like, Enniskillen, like, they know what they're doing in Ulster. Like, they're not one of these sides that you can say, look, they've won their provincial, they've won their county title for the first time in ages, and they're just going to give it a crack in Ulster. Like, they've been up in Ulster in knockout games plenty, and that, look, they've got a great strong defensive setup as well, based off, look, we saw that the weekend as well. They have the scores there as well. Connell Jones as well is still doing the business in centre half forward as well. So look, they have good players. They have a good system in there as well. They don't have the same quality of players as Kilcoo probably by a good bit. So I do think that, look, I would be amazed if Kilcoo slip up to them as well. I think Kilcoo look like they've got their momentum back as well. And look, we've talked about this before already, that you see Curfin did it the year of their 3 in a row. They absolutely stumbled out of Galway that year. They barely got out of Galway whatsoever. As soon as they get into the provincials, they blitz everyone. And look, I think Kilcoo might do a similar pattern, at least until the final against the Glen. I'd say, look, they've beaten Ballybay comfortably. A Ballybay side who beat Crossmaglen, who we were talking very fancifully of a few weeks ago. So look, I think they've blitzed them, and I wouldn't be surprised that if they have about 6 or 7 points to spare over Enniskillen.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree that I think Enniskillen have to be on their A game, and they also need Kilcute to really drop the ball a little bit and to be there for the taking. Speaking of a Galway team, you mentioned Corofin blitzing teams in the provincial championship. We're going to Moycullen's victory over Westport, 318 to 112. A Westport side that was coming off the high of winning their first ever Mayo title, but they got blitzed. Moycullen 318, Westport 112. And Matt, I'll come to you a question about mentality here, because this is something that I was kind of fascinated with. Westport were not tipped by anyone really to win the kind of to Mayo title, at the start of the season. They weren't really hotly fancied. They did it. Moycullen were tipped as a good shot to win the Galway championship. And I feel like Moycullen winning Galway, maybe it was the fact that they won it, in 2020. But there's this kind of attitude that I would think that Moycullen, it wasn't enough for them to win Galway. They really were like, okay, no, this is only the first part of our season. We're going for the All-Ireland here this year. Do you think that there might have been an attitude at Westport that, not that they didn't want to go on and win Connacht and win the All-Ireland, but maybe that they were more happy to settle for a provincial championship than maybe Moycullen were? Or do you think that just Moycullen had more quality?
Well, it's interesting, Moycullen, looking at the teams yesterday, actually, Peter Cook, their star man for Moycullen, was actually missing for this game. So it probably shows the quality that Moycullen have all over the field. But I get your point at Westport. I take it back to the Bars initially when they won in Cork in 2018. They didn't get hammered by Dr. Groves and Kerry. And people weren't expecting it because the Bars have good players and all that. But I honestly thought that year the Bars were just happy to win Cork. They were just delighted. They were delighted to get over the line. They had a few drinks, and that was the end of that tale. They did win the second year, and then they go into the All-Ireland series, and they're now suddenly a competitive team. I think Westport are going on the same trajectory. On the Mayo Championship, I actually predicted Westport would win it. So there you go. I thought there'd be a fairy tale story in Lee Keegan there, but and I thought they'd win Connacht as well, but maybe it's a bit too soon for them. They do have very good players, I have to say. Owen McLaughlin's injured for them. Imagine if he comes back next season. You have Mark Moore there as well, the forgotten man in Mayo. Lee Keegan, obviously, will he stick around? He probably will, to be honest. He's an outstanding footballer, very versatile. But Moycullen, to score 318 against this Westport team in McHale Park, that's incredible. And, other than Peter Cook, people weren't writing saying Moycullen were that good, to be honest with you. I didn't see enough of them, to be honest with you. I knew they won the Galway Championship in 2020. But look at this performance. They could go on a really good run. I know the Connacht champions have the Ulster champions, but even looking ahead at Connacht, Moycullen should walk the next few games, to be honest with you. They've Strokestown next. They didn't probably tore the strand in the final. It'd probably be an easy championship there for them. So I think Moycullen will do very well to win Connacht this season. And yeah, it's an interesting one, Moycullen going for the All-Ireland, because this is really their first crack at a provincial championship, because in 2020 when they won Galway, it wasn't a provincial championship because of COVID. So maybe they have a point to prove after winning Galway the second time that they're good enough to be in a Connacht championship. Maybe that was the way that they have to put down the marker against this Westport team and blitz them really. I think that was the way, but after Westport, I think it's a team that's in transition. They're going to go and do amazing things in the next few years. There's only going to be time for them, but Moycullen, I think, are going to be a team to watch in the next few weeks.
Yeah, no, hard to disagree with that for sure. One man who definitely put down a marker, Luke, was Desi Keneally. 10 points, 5 from play. I mean, definitely showing his hand up for Pádraig Joyce to be in that starting lineup for next season. The goals, 3 of them from Moycullen. The first one came from Daniel Cox. That one made it 1-11 to 1-4 before the break. I mean, that really must have knocked the stuffing out of Westport going in at half time. The other 2 goals came from Galway star Owen Gallagher, and the other one came from, I believe it was Aidan Claffey. So, realistically, Keneally, outstanding performance, definitely chose his hand up. But did anyone else catch your eye from Moycullen?
Well, look, I haven't watched a bit of Sigerson and everything like that as well. Neil Mulcahy, the fullback, looks a really, really good player as well. That I think it was when UIG that he was playing fullback for as well. He's a real solid player in there as well. That I think he's a fella that could maybe make the transition up into into a Galway setup soon as well. David Wynn's a nice player in cornerback too. I know he got a red late on as well, but look, I think they'll be absolutely delighted with that as well. I think the other thing that they'll be mainly focusing on is that, look, can they get Peter Cook back? And like, I think I'd probably agree with Matt that looking at Strokestown next with they're another new side, and then potentially Turlestrand in the final, or look, the Leitrim champions as well. I don't think they'll be quaking too much with that as well. If they can just get through those games and then maybe see if they can get Peter Cook back for like the later games once they start getting up to Croke Park for semi-finals and finals, I think, look, if they can get him back, that's a serious side. And that you already talked about Gallagher, you talked about Desi Keneally, like these are Galway players too in there as well. And then look, the big kind of trio for them are the three Kellys, Owen, Sean and Paul, and that's just a really, really strong combination to have at club level. Three fellas like that, all with Galway. It's just a very, very strong team. And that, yeah, like I think the manner in which they beat Westport as well probably is making a lot of people sit up. I think they'll probably ease through Connacht as well. And look, once they're into that stage as well, it's 2 games off in All-Ireland as well. Nobody's going to bet against you in 2 games.
Yeah, no, and they definitely would fancy their chances. They're definitely looking at an All-Ireland. There's no way anyone can tell me any different. We have a comment in here from our good pal Johnny Mack. Says, good stuff, lads. Gowna game Saturday was brilliant. Penalties is Krill, but Gowna should have finished off Enniskillen numerous times. Kilcoo to win Ulster and maybe to win the All-Ireland. Matt, I'll come to you first. Do you agree with that, or are you going Watty Glen, or indeed Enniskillen or Cargan?
Jeez, you can't go against John because he was at the game. So if Enniskillen were that bad, I'm going to agree with you, John. I'm definitely going to agree with you and say that Kilcrew might even hammer Enniskillen. I was just looking at the stats in Conor Love, and I just put 2 and 2 together, and obviously I got 5. So I'd probably say Kilcrew will get to the Ulster final. I'd still go Watty Glen. I think they're good enough. I'm still not sure about Kilcrew. Like, putting 1 performance in is good enough, but if you need to put 2 good performances back to back, or even 3 good performances, you end up doing it all year. They literally hammered Shotneel in the Derry final, and that was supposed to be a competitive game. So I'd still back Glen, but if John is saying Kilcrew are going to go for the moon, I would have to believe him, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with someone that has been there and seen it in the flesh. Obviously, we're watching it on the telly. Maybe there was something a bit different. Maybe the analysis on the sidelines was next level. I don't know, but Kilcoo, 100%, they are definitely a contender. I mean, they're the defending champions. One team that is also in the Connacht semi-final as well, they're going against Turlestrand next, Lucas, St. Mary's of Kiltarragh. They beat St. Kiernan's, the London champions, 3-8 to 1-8. They got 2 late goals to finish off the London champions. But really, a difficult away day. It was played in Ruislip. They'll definitely be relieved to get away and get out of that one, because that was definitely a banana skin for them.
Yeah, look, with this one, it kind of feels like 2 teams that were playing to kind of, I suppose, just to kind of stay in the championship more so than like I don't think either of them would kind of fancy an extended run into Connacht. I think look for St. Mary's, winning Leitrim was the big thing for them, I suppose, and that's a huge kind of thing that they've come through there as well. They're going to have that crack at Turlestrand next. I think Turlestrand, like with, I suppose, 7 years in a row, I think they've won in Sligo. That I think they'll be at pretty short odds, I suppose, now, and that I think the bookies will have Turlestrand as pretty heavy favourites. And you look at some of the players for Turlestrand that are available to them as well. I think that St. Mary's their run's probably going to end the next day out as well. But look, they got a trip over to Ruislip and a bit of a holiday over there as well. But I don't think. I don't think they'll be on too far into the competition. And look, I would maybe fear for them as well that if they did come through, what would happen if they played Moycullen in the final?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going definitely 100%. I'm going Moycullen against Turlestrand. I just think Turlestrand, more so the experience that Turlestrand have in the Connacht Club Championship, Matt, I just think that's invaluable. I mean, you were talking there previously about, the Bars obviously winning in Cork, and then it was the next year that they won in Cork that they got into the provincials, that they really kind of spread their wings and kind of went for it. I just think the experience Turlestrand have, I just think that would be too much for Mary's, and I can see it being a Turlestrand Moycullen final.
Yeah, exactly. Torrestrana have good enough players. Actually, they've another podcast owner, the Ball Talk podcast owner, Ryan Bailey, on the bench. So hopefully for the GAA podcasters, hopefully Torrestrana get to the kind of final and we'll have a good day out there. But they've good players. Torrestrana knows, and like Phil O'Donnell in midfield is a very good player. I think Liam Bond is on the forward line, so they actually have decent players. But I think, like, my College should be too strong for them. Like, especially after hammering Westport the way they did. Like, Westport has decent performance in them in that game against Mike Cullen, and Mike Cullen still hammered them. So yeah, I'd have to back Mike Cullen in this game. But then again, it is the club championship. Like, and there's been a load of results that have gone awry. There's been a load of shots, and you never know. You never know in these club championships. But yes, St. Mary's Kiltogger, it was an interesting one in that game because I was keeping tabs of it, and I thought St. Kieran would be kicking themselves. They were 1-8 to 1-5 up going into the last quarter, and they threw it away. St. Mary's scored 2-3 of the last few scores, and yeah, that killed the game. I don't know where they're good enough to beat Turtle Strand. Probably not. I'd say Turtle Strand will walk to victory, but I think Mike Hull would win the final. But it could be tighter than people think because Turtle Strand have won a few Sligo championships on the bounce.
Yeah, I mean, they've established a bit of a dynasty up there in Sligo now. Going completely down south, we're going first to the game between Clonmel Commercials and Nemo Rangers. Matt, bit of a heartbreak for you as a Cork man. The last Cork team standing is out of the club championship. It was played in Porky Queeve. Clonmel Commercials won 2-15 to 1-11. I mean, they got 2 goals inside the first half. Obviously, outstanding performances throughout the side. Sean O'Connor got the first goal in the 7th minute. Coleman Kennedy got the next one in the 18th minute. And it's been labelled as a shock. But when you look through the Clonmel side, Michael O'Reilly, the Tipperary goalkeeper, in goal. Seamus Kennedy and Kevin Fahey in defence. Michael Quinlivan and Conal Kennedy in midfield. Coleman Kennedy, Sean O'Connor, and of course, the mentioned Jason Lonergan in the forwards. It's a really strong Clonmel Commercial side.
It is, yeah. I wasn't personally shocked with it because I watched Nemo. I thought they weren't probably deserving Cork champions. I thought the Bars were probably more deserving. And the fact Nemo got in, and someone mentioned this on Twitter actually, Nemo had 1.5 good games this season. That game against the Bars where they just shocked them from the off, and half the game against Castletown in the group stage. That was it, really. Like when you go all the way back, Newstown got a penalty and missed it. Clonakilty only lost by a point to them. They only scored 2-4 against Carbery Rangers in the quarter final. They kind of stumbled over the line against Ballincollig as well. They weren't really good enough in that game. And I thought just the Bars were shell-shocked in the Cork final and they didn't know how to react in the first half particularly. But I thought, looking at the Clonmel team and looking at how they've progressed over the years, the fact they beat Nemo in 2015 through a late Michael Quinlivan goal years ago, I thought it wasn't going to be an easy game. I obviously thought Nemo would win the game. I thought Errol Guinness would beat them eventually in the final. But I didn't think Nemo would go this early. And really, I don't think Nemo were that good. I thought they were very, very lackadaisical. If you take out Mark Cronin for that Nemo performance, I thought they were pretty bang average. Luke Connolly, a lot of people are saying Luke Connolly should be in the Cork team. People on RT, looking at that match on RT, should just come up with a conclusion there. Luke Connolly's not good enough for Cork football at the moment. He was lost in this game. He only scored 6 points from frees. He didn't score any from play. I don't think he was good enough in the entire game. Nemo weren't good enough. But fair play to Clonmel Commercials. Jason Lonergan with 6 points, incredible. But I think he's going to be missing out for the rest of the month of championship. I think he's going to New York. So, Jesus.
That's a big loss for them. He was outstanding in this game. Another thing as well, they went in at halftime 2-4 to 6 points up. But look, I want to get your thoughts on their 10-minute burst in the second half. They hit 6 points in a row to really bury the Nemo Rangers challenge. I mean, a burst like that, 6 points in 10 minutes, unreplied to. I mean, that's going to put you in the driving seat in pretty much any game.
Yeah, and I thought Clonmel, the style of football was really, really nice as well. They set up with that full forward line of Coleman Kennedy, Sean O'Connor as well. Sean O'Connor's the other big one that we haven't talked a huge amount. He's an absolute star, and he kind of got his breakthrough, I suppose, with Tip last year a little bit. Did kind of only getting his foot in, kind of his feet on the ground, I suppose, in in the Tipperary team, but I think he could be a fella that could really kick on for Tip, because you look at underage, the scores that he was putting up for Tipperary that year at under 20, where he was the top scorer by an absolute mile. I think he's going to actually take off. Again, he looks really, really good in there too. And then look, Jason Lonergan as well was the man of the match performance. That they just have classy forwards, and that having those three fellas in the full forward line has been able to free up Michael Quinlivan. That, like in previous years, you remember with Clonmel, that Quinlivan would be up in the forward line as well. Having those fellas up there, it means that look, they can afford to move Quinlivan out, and he can have a bit more influence in midfield, and you can have a bit more strength in midfield while not losing that kind of star kind of full forward line too. So look, I like the balance of that team as well. You talked as well, Seamus Kennedy is like a top footballer as well, that I think he could be a fella that if he was playing the other code, he could easily be playing football for Tipperary too. So yeah, look, they've a really nice spine. You started off the discussion of this match by listing that spine, and look, that's a big part of it as well, and that's why look, I think they're going to be the favourites to win Munster now. That I think look, it's gearing up for Clonmel Aerogue final, and yeah, I think Clonmel will be the favourites now after these performances at the weekend.
Yeah, obviously you mentioned there Og Ennis. I mean, what did you make of their performance? I mean, like, tough first half to watch, 2 points each at halftime, but then a 15-minute burst by Éire Og Ennis where they hit 3-5 without reply. Out of that 3-5, Gavin Cooney struck 2-2, Mark McInerney struck 1-3. That was all without reply. That really finished off the Nire's challenge. Obviously, both of those lads hit more scores than that over the game, but in the final 30 minutes, Éire Og outscored the Nire by 3-9 to 2 points. Like, Luke, what can you even say about that? How does the first half end 2 points apiece, and then they manage in the final 30 minutes to hit 3 goals and 9? I mean, the only thing that I can think really is, look, they must have just got the run on the Nire, but like, my goodness, a weird game.
Yeah, very much so. And that, look, I think the Nire aren't going to be a side that you're going to read probably too much into a win against. So look, they've won plenty of Waterfords recently, but they haven't had a run in Munster at all. And look, they're coming up. It's a strange enough game that they're going to play Cairns O'Rahilly next, and Cairns O'Rahilly side that lost a fair few games in Kerry. So I think Éire Og will be a little bit kind of confused where they're at the moment. I think a bit they won't be delighted with their performance, I suppose, as well. Look, they win very handy, and the second half was really good, but they I don't know. There's still probably questions about them, and that I don't know if we fully know where they're at the moment. I would actually be leaning for them to beat Cairns O'Rahilly at the next stage as well. I do think that they've enough quality in their side that they should be able to overcome Cairns O'Rahilly. I think the Kerry Championship hasn't probably helped Kerry's chances of having a team competing in Munster. I think that the system in there doesn't really lend itself to their club sides actually competing for All Ireland. So I do think that Éire Og will be going in the next day kind of as the favourites. And look, I'm looking forward to see that kind of those two lads, McInerney and Cooney, in the full forward line again, and see if they can replicate as much, because they're some top players as well. And look, Darren O'Neill in midfield as well, another one of my favourite players to watch as well from Clare. So I think they've got some nice pieces, and look, and Aaron Fitzgerald in the backs as well is he's also as good as you're going to get at this stage as well. So look, I think they'll be happy enough with it's job done for them. The scoreline suggests comfortable in the end after a bit of a blip at the start, and look, they'll be going in against Cairns O'Rahilly as the favourites, I'd say.
Yeah, no, I definitely think I would put it more kind of 50-50, but I can see either side coming out of that. Like, Cairns have the likes of Tommy Walsh, Barry John Keane, but then on the flip side, and they have David Moran, as well. And on the flip side, Éire Og, obviously mentioned, Darren O'Neill, Aaron Fitzgerald, Gavin Cooney, Mark McInerney. It's going to be a very even game. One thing, Matt, that we have to give is that the Nire have probably the best post-victory chant that we've ever heard. I don't know if you saw that victory going around. They were singing to the song Free From Desire. They were singing We're From the Nire. Pretty good.
Jesus. Yeah, the Monday club, it keeps going and going, even when the side loses. Like, it's incredible. Yeah, like you'd imagine what are they doing after losing? But I suppose like their season's over. They may as well see a chance and get a trending going on social media, they may as well do that. But fair play to the Noir. They're not very good at football, but they're very good at chanting. So they'll probably win the All Ireland in score Shinshire or something like that. So fair play to them. But Aero Guinness, they've Manus Doherty at the back line as well. Very good player. I think Kieran Russell, I don't know, is he there this season? Keeb at the centre forward, very good player as well. So Aero Guinness, I backed them to win Munster from the start, and I still back them. They're a very, very good side. The way they put away the Irish, well, I think Kieran's O'Reilly's, they lost 3 games, maybe 4 games in Kerry this year. They aren't that great. So we're going for an Aero Guinness in Continent final, and I think with Jason Lonergan missing, I think Aero Guinness could win it.
Yeah, I think Lonergan's absence could be absolutely huge. I think you do have to give them credit for this week because the Nair were always going to be a potential banana skin. They were going to come, they were going to set up defensively. They weren't going to try and attack Éire Óg, and Éire Óg were going to have to come at them and break them down. And they managed to do it, particularly in the last 30 minutes, as I mentioned, outscoring the Waterford champions by 3-9 to 2 points. We're switching codes now. We're going to the hurling championship, and definitely the one that I was most focused on this weekend, Luke. Obviously, our county champions, Kilmacud Crokes, 218, Clock Balacolla 112. It was really one of the standout results of last season as Clock Balacolla beat Kilmacud Crokes in the Leinster Club Championship. That was the semi-final before they got torn limb from limb by Ballyhale Shamrocks in that final. But Kilmacud Crokes, after a shaky start where Clock Balacolla went 5 points to 2 up, Crokes shook off that bad start and win by 218 to 112. What did you make of them?
Look, very business-like from Crokes, and you can kind of say this is about Crokes and every code and every age group, that they all play the same and they're all kind of win in boring manners and stuff as well. So like they're a team, I suppose, that like I think people in Dublin love to hate them a little bit. That look, they're so professional and that they're so they don't seem to hit like incredible scores. They just seem to go through the process, and that they just win games, I suppose, as well. And that, look, it's the same with the football as well, is that like they very well set up defensively, very structured and everything as well. They were in the hurling, like I think they're quite reliant on Oisin O'Rourke this year. I think that everything seems to be going through O'Rourke, and that look, Ronan Hayes' form is absolutely fallen off a cliff, and that it's really bizarre.
Yeah, no score again from Ronan Hayes.
It's that you look back to that Nafina game last year in the Dublin final where he gave an absolute exhibition, and he said this is the moment that people have been comparing him, his body size and everything like that, his physique, to Seamus Callanan, that people are saying that he's the attributes to be like that, and he's absolutely completely gone the other way. So like I think, look, they're getting through games though as well, and look, you have to say as well that look, this is a Clock Balacolla side that is full of talent that turned them over last year. So look, it's a really, really good result for Crokes, and that some of those young players coming through, like I think Micheál Donoghue will be absolutely delighted looking at some of the young players coming through. That he'll be a bit worried about Ronan Hayes' form, but the likes of Davy Crowe is just getting better and better. Mark Grogan at centre half back, Eddie Gibbons in goal, Brian Sheehy in the full back line, and Dara Purcell as well. I think there's talk kind of at the moment that there's a bit of a mass exodus from the Dublin hurling panel. A lot of players are leaving. There's talk that it could nearly be half the panel next year, nearly up to that, could be new. So I think looking at that, I wouldn't be surprised if all those fellas I talked about, maybe Keane O'Cahilsig as well, and Keane McGowan, these type of players, all of them could be featuring pretty heavily, I'd say, for Dublin next year. And I wouldn't be shocked as well if Oisin O'Rourke's back starting a key role for Dublin, potentially on frees as well.
Yeah, I think he has to be. I mean, a goal and 11 from Oisin O'Rourke in this game. But then again, we all know the best player in the Dublin final doesn't tend to start in the Dublin team the next year. Just ask Sean Curry. But Matt, what did you make of them? Obviously, Stephen Bergen's goal towards the end made it a bit interesting. But a Crokes 3 in a row finished off Clock Balacolla's challenge after that goal did go in. Did you think, I'm just asking you, do you think that they're stronger this year than they were last year?
It's interesting because I think they've learned a lot really from last year. Look, I think they went into the game against Clock Balacolla not expecting Clock Balacolla to play so well. Like I know it's a bit cliche, but they have very good players like Stephen Bergen and Stephen Picky-Maher on their team as well. They have excellent players. So why Kilmacud weren't up for the challenge last year, I'm not sure. But this season, there seems to be something different about them. Like they're going into a semi-final now against, I think, St. Mullins from Carlow. So that'll be an interesting game itself. They similar to Clop Alacola, they have very good players themselves. So yeah, that'd be interesting. And you're saying Owen Hayes is playing, not playing particularly well. Well, the fact he's not playing particularly well and they're still winning games, that's a good sign, really, because he's one of their main players last season. So, like, there's more players stepping up to the plate, if anything, for Kilmacud, and I think that's a positive going into the All Ireland series for them. But St. Mullins is another test for them. Like, they can't get ahead of themselves after this performance. Brilliant win against Clop Alacola, but like next challenge now against St. Mullins, who themselves are a pretty good side with very good players.
Yeah, and I mean, they Constantine as well to come back in for Crokes too. That he's out suspended from the Dublin final. I think he's going to miss the St. Mullins game the next day too. There's a 2-game suspension he has. But look, if they do get over the line, as they'll be expected to do that, when they do go in against Ballyhale, look, they will have Constantine back for that game. So, like, I do think that there is signs that, like, yeah, they are improving. But like, we're going to come to Ballyhale now in a minute, though. Like, I think there's nearly kind of a way of talking about teams and saying that, like, they're better than what they were last year. I think, look, Ballyhale are just look to be in Leinster pretty much unbeatable at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned there about St. Mullins, though. We'll get to them and then we'll go to the other semi-final pairing. St. Mullins are going up against Kilmacud Crokes. They beat Fern St. Aidan's by 119 to 117. A 47th minute goal from Conor Keogh after he ran split through the Fern St. Aidan's defence, and then he finished it off with a smashing finish. Massive shout out as well to Marty Kavanagh. 12 points for St. Mullins, 11 of them from frees, but deadly accurate. Always a class hurler. Matt, did you find it a little bit surprising that the Carlow champions have beaten the Wexford champions?
Not particularly. Like, Fern St. Aidan's don't particularly have a large amount of Wexford players. And you mentioned Marty Kavanagh there. He's one of the best hurlers in Carlow, probably the best hurler in Carlow. And you have him at their disposal at club level. I think that's incredible. And shout out to him as well. He was on my podcast as well. I know he's an absolutely excellent hurler and underrated in a way as well, along with a few Carlow players. Conor Keogh, you mentioned there, and I watched him in, I think it was Carlow against Down. I was watching the Joe McDonagh Cup, and he was one of the players that was outstanding in that game. I think he scored 1-4 in that game as well against Down. So he's an excellent hurler as well. So the fact that they have more Carlow players, I suppose it's a similar situation in Munster with Clonmel and Nebo Rangers. Nebo Rangers don't particularly have large amounts of Cork players nowadays. Clonmel have a load of Tipperary players. And I think the amount of inter-county players in the teams makes a huge difference, no matter what county they're from, whether Carlow or Wexford. Cork Ballyculla against Kilmacud, a prime example last season as well. So I suppose if you have a load of inter-county players, you're going to get over the line. And once you have Marty Kavanagh on top form, you always have a chance of beating anything.
Yeah, no, I would 100% agree with that. Luke, what did you make of the Carlow champions? A great victory against Fern St. Aidan's.
Yeah, look, an interesting matchup in that these two sides, I think it was nearly 13 weeks for both of them since they last played a game. That both, they were the two counties, I suppose, that ran off their county championships the earliest as well, I suppose. There's a lot of debate in Wexford now at the moment of whether whether this is actually harming their chances, because look, you see it already. That I think they announced it today that they're swapping it around next year, that they're going to do football, hurling, running at the same time as each other, and that they're going to have separate weeks for it, because like I think they've kind of realized that since they've brought this in the last couple of seasons, the Wexford sides have just gone one and done, that they've been knocked out straight away. So I think, look, that's definitely a factor in there as well. But look, St. Mullins had the similar situation, that they were coming in a bit cold too. So, look, they can't really complain about that. I think Fern St. Aidan's, like, another side hadn't won a Wexford in a considerable period of time. And you'd wonder sometimes for these teams kind of getting over the line, I think, in your county championship, and you knowing that you're going to have to, if you want to win a provincial, you'd have to beat the likes of a Ballyhale. You'd wonder what their motivation sometimes going into a provincial championships like. So, yeah, look, I think St. Mullins, like, I think it's they've been thereabouts in Leinster, that they've they've won a few games in recent years in Leinster. They've got some good players in there as well. Don't think it's a huge surprise, but at the same time, I think, look, for St. Aidan's, look, there's some nice players like Paul Morris, Curry, Dunbar, Byrne Dunbar, Ian Byrne as well, Niall Murphy, all kind of on Wexford panels. I think they probably would have expected going into to have done better than what they did. But look, fair play to St. Mullins, but look, an almighty test for them coming up now.
Yeah, and then going over to the other side of the draw, we won't talk about the Ballyhale one first because, I mean, what's new? Ballyhale putting a big score on a team that they were expected to beat. We're going to talk about the Naas results first. 4-21, Shinrone of Offaly, 18 points. Naas actually, interesting enough, hit a goal in every quarter of the game. The first one came in the 9th minute from Charlie Sheridan. The second one came in the 25th minute from Kevin Ahern. The third one came in the 44th minute from James Burke. And the last one came in the 55th minute from Jack Sheridan. They were streets ahead of Shinrone all throughout the game. Matt, this just shows really, I mean, not just Naas hurling, but Kildare hurling is on the rise.
It is, yeah, and a lot of people were saying Shinrone would win this game. I knew Naas would win it, to be honest with you. Like Shinrone again, a new team coming out of Offaly, and Naas, intermediate All-Ireland champions last season. They're a pretty good side. And I've seen a few Kildare hurlers, like James Burke, who plays for Naas as well, coincidentally. I'm really impressed with this guy. He's an excellent midfielder, and Jack Sheridan as well. His accuracy is unbelievable. Kevin Ahern, very, very good. Simon Lacey, Conan Bourne, like they're excellent players. So I think they stood a good chance of beating Shinrone. And what I'm hearing from this game, Shinrone actually lost the heads a bit. I think they had a man sent off as well, and they just weren't up to the pace of the game whatsoever. And Naas deserving victory. And yeah, whatever they do now with the Leinster Championship, even if they get a hammering off Ballyhale, they'll be proud of their efforts. To see they've beaten an Offaly team at the Leinster Championship and they belong at senior level, I think it's incredible. It's an incredible story, and fair play to Naas. And yeah, Kildare hurling is on the rise. I think they're in the Joe McDonagh Cup next season. I'm not sure now, but if they are, that will give them the confidence to go up even further.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I definitely wouldn't want to be facing up against them if I was in the John McDonagh Cup with them next season, because they are a team on the rise, and a team with momentum can take out pretty much anything. Luke, obviously, Kieran Cleary, who was the man of the match in the Offaly hurling final, he was out for this game. That's obviously a massive loss. But I mean, Shinrone just were nowhere near their best in this game, as well as Naas being so good.
Yeah, well, look, I was surprised with like that. You look at the standard kind of Offaly hurling at I suppose at club level's been pretty good in the last couple of years, I thought, and that Shinrone have been thereabouts the last couple of years. They were very unlucky, I suppose, in previous years in the semi-finals to knock it over the line, that they've had like 1 point losses to eventual champions. You look last year as well, Ballyhale against I think it was Road last year, I think it was in the Leinster semi-final, that they required the last second goal from Adrian Mullen. The Offaly club hurling's in a good place, so the fact that
St. Ryan is, I think, they took some extra time.
Yeah, but it was it's the fact that that a team from Offaly coming out as well, that like Offaly club hurling has been doing pretty well in recent years. That the fact that Naas come out of it so comfortable winners as well. Like I know, like Matt was saying, that Shinrone probably lost their heads of the day a little bit as well. But at the same time, for Naas to be putting that scoreline past a good club side like Shinrone as well, like it's very, very impressive. And that, yeah, like those players that you mentioned as well, the likes of Brian Byrne as well has been a good player for Kildare for ages too. That you look at the number of Kildare players on that Naas side, and that the whole backbone of the Kildare hurling side is players from Naas, and that like they're a very good side. And look, it's just unfortunate for them that we all know who's coming next for them.
Yeah, and that team that is coming next that we all know about is Ballyhale Shamrocks, who beat Castletown Gagan by 5-25 to 15 points. Owen Cody hit 2-9, Colin Fennelly hit 2-1, Niall Shortall hit 1-2, and interestingly, they were missing a little known fella who's supposed to come back into the side called TJ Reid. So Ballyhale look damn good this year, as they always do, Matt, and they really put Castletown to the side this time.
Yeah, they did. Like they were missing TJ Reid. Like, once you're missing TJ Reid, a very influential player, you think that Castletown would put it up to Ballyhale, but they still didn't. Like Owen Cody, I think, scored 2-11 in this game. Like what a hurler he is, Adrian Mullen. They've simply all over the field. They have excellent players, and yeah, they're probably all Ireland favourites, and for good reason. They're an excellent player. And yeah, very good performance from them. And yeah, I suppose you can't really judge them in this game because Castletown haven't been involved in these championships over the last few seasons. So yeah, it should be interesting to see how they get on.
Yeah, no, so it was 2-9 from Owen Cody, but still, that's an outrageous scoreline for him to put up. Luke, Ballyhale looking as sharp as ever. Big shout out, though, has to go, of course, to Niall O'Brien. 8 points for Castletown, but they just came up against the Giants and they just didn't really have a match for them, and unfortunately for the Westmeath champions.
Yeah, and we already talked about TJ not playing as well. Paddy Mullen in midfield as well was suspended too. He didn't play either as well, so he's coming back in too. So, like that's the scoreline, win by 25 points without two key players, I suppose, a midfielder and a centre half forward to come back into the side. Like it is very ominous, and to be honest, look, I'd be shocked if anyone gets within 10 points them. I think in the remaining games, if Nace or Kilmacud or St. Mullins, whoever it is, kind of that's coming down the line. I suppose Nace the next day, but if any of them get within 10, I'd be absolutely shocked. And look, I don't really think that they're going to get a proper test until we get to the actual ladder, the All Ireland stage.
Yeah, no, I think Crokes could probably give them a good test, depending on what version of Crokes turns up. If Ronan Hayes decides that he's going to hit form in this game, he could give them a few problems. But yeah, Ballyhale 100% for Leinster champions for me, and I think it'll be fascinating to see them come up against whoever comes out of the provinces. We're going to go over two more headlines, lads, before we wrap up from the weekend's action. We're going to start light, and then we'll get to the heavy one. So the light one obviously is what's new. David Clifford, 2 goals and 12 points as Fossa won their championship there. Matt, is there anything this guy can't do? Just an absolutely outstanding Gaelic footballer. Now, Luke, I'll come to you for that first. I'm not sure if we've lost Matt, but 2-12 for David Clifford. I know it was at a junior level, but still, I mean, that you saw that goal that's doing the rounds, ran basically from the halfway line like Diego Maradona. That commentary was put over that clip that was going viral online. I mean, what a goal, what a player.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I think it was, and I think that some of the scores as well, like there was another one doing the rounds as well when he's out in the left sideline when he kicks one off his left as well. That like it's just outrageous stuff, really, and it is kind of mad that a player that quality with Paddy Clifford in the team are playing at junior level. I suppose again, look, I don't want to keep harping on about the Kerry Championship, but that the fact that there is so few teams in the senior and intermediates as well means that these players are playing in junior. When look realistically, that I suppose if you had a 32 team championship, they would be maybe high intermediate, low senior, that they'd be playing at that level. But look, for the players involved, that they they can't help what championship they're put into as well. They have to go out and win the game as well. And look, the two Cliffords, I suppose, combined for 3-14, I think it was. And look, that's the win of the game right there.
Oh yeah, no, Paddy Clifford had another sensational performance as well. 1-2 it was from him, and 2-12 from Clifford is just an absolutely ridiculous scoreline to be able to put up. Now we'll move to the heavy one. I mean, obviously you've seen that clip of the fight between Naomh Barogue and of course it was Eilert de Balla from Wexford. Another mass GAA brawl, and this time what was dangerous and what was scary for me about this one was it was in the stands this time. It was in like the stands. That stand is full of concrete. For anyone who's going to think that, for anyone that has not been to Parnell Park before, that stand is just pure concrete and steps and hard, sharp edges. If anyone had got cracked and fallen backwards and hit their head off one of the ground there or hit their head off one of the steps, this could have really had a very, very dark, dangerous ending to it. So I feel like people need to take this really seriously. These actions should not be tolerated by the GAA.
Yeah, and I think the big, I suppose the biggest issue with it as well is that, look, we've seen fights on the pitch before as well. When it starts to spill over into the crowd is when it's really dangerous as well. And look, there's kind of just two views, I suppose, of it as well. That there was an incident where a woman was holding a hurl, and I counted at least 4 swings of the hurl as well that connected on somebody as well, and they were proper swings of the hurl too as well. So look, I think I think, look, initially you can see that the fight starts in the pitch as well, pretty close to the sideline. No idea what's said, and that I think people are kind of speculating on what initially starts it and everything as well. But look, you can quickly see people running down the steps and everything as well, punches being thrown to the back of the head and everything as well. That look, it was an ugly enough scene, I suppose, and that I think, yeah, look, there's a lot of stories kind of talked fondly about. I don't know, GAA has this culture of fighting in matches and everything as well, and that we talk about, and there was a big fight in the game stuff as well. But once it starts spilling over into the sideline and everything as well, like it just can't happen, and that it's just too dangerous for that to happen. And look, with young people, I suppose, in the crowd as well, having to watch this as well, like that was a serious fight, and it's very distressing for some people that were going just to watch their club be in action again in a provincial game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a family sport. Like, you don't want to take your kids to watch your local club play, and then, there's full-grown men swinging absolute leather at each other. So, like, I mean, that is pretty scary. We have 2 comments here from Jack Nulty. Clifford's a king. That's all that can be said. I mean, there's absolutely no arguing with that. And then about the brawl, why I found it harrowing is some found entertaining and harmless. It's disgraceful scenes. Absolutely agree with that, Jack. I mean, Matt, we were talking about it here. The fact that, I mean, they're on concrete. There's steps there. There's really sharp steps there that if someone gets cracked and falls backwards and hits their head, I mean, that's at the very least you're going to the hospital for serious injuries. So, and one thing I said, if you watch one of the previous episodes here on Play on GAA, I was saying this to Luke. This was in the aftermath of the Galway Armagh brawl. I was saying that brawl was really close to the crowd. That brawl was right on the bottom of the Cusack stand. The Armagh Tyrone brawl, where 5 players got sent off, that was right on the end line. I mean, fans could literally reach out and grab the players when that brawl was going on. I'm saying that because the GAA is such a community-based sport and everybody knows everybody's business, what is there to stop someone in the crowd knowing something about one of the players and saying something to one of the players, or throwing a coin or a bottle or a lighter at one of the players after they've been in a brawl? The player's already fired up, and it could end up in the crowd with players and fans fighting each other. It's pretty much happened. I mean, it happened in Wicklow with, coaches and parents fighting against players. Why can't it happen in the club championship? What, the security? Yeah, they're so well paid. It's people in high vises that, are volunteering. What are they going to do? Break up these athletes throwing leather at each other? No chance. So there is a dangerous little balance here that it could go horribly wrong if the GAA don't clamp down on it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've seen it at multiple occasions on social media. Well, things are getting small, even in the inter-county game. Like, I even go back to Kilkenny and Galway in the Leinster final. I think some Kilkenny fans were bullying this lad that happened to be.
I seen that, yeah.
Like, it's just wrong. It's wrong. It really is wrong, and that kind of spreads into the pitch as well. That this kind of culture is coming into the GAA, I think, as well. This kind of, like, I don't think soccer fans would kind of want to accept this, but soccer kind of culture as well. Like, fans fight each other, players fight each other as well, and it's not right, really. And it could end in like. We had this, I'd say, in 2010 between Meath and Louth. I'm sure you remember this, that incident in Croke Park where Barton's son was pushed all over the place. Yes, Louth were robbed that day, but like, it was disgraceful scenes what happened on the day of the game, that particular day. We're 12 years after that, and it's still going on. And even worse with lighters, as you mentioned there, with being pushed onto concrete and stuff. It's just wrong. It really is wrong, and the GAA need to clamp down on it. No more 12 weeks suspended. And even the Roscommon incident where the coach punches the referee and he gets what was it, a 96-week ban. He should be banned for life. That's inexcusable. That shouldn't happen, and I think it's wrong. It really is wrong. And the GAA should clamp down on it. Unless, like, somebody's going to get badly hurt until the GAA do something. And that's the sad reality of it. Hopefully the GAA do something, because, like, thankfully, it doesn't seem to have affected anybody. Hopefully, everyone's okay after that incident in Parnell Park. But if it's going to get worse over the next few weeks, the GAA need to clamp down on no 96-week bans. Whoever's pulling punches or any of that, lifetime ban. I don't care if you're Bobby Connolly or David Clifford or the great Pat Spillane or anybody. If you pull a punch on somebody, or a referee, you should get banned for life. Simple as that.
Yeah, I was saying this on GA Fan TV podcast. I was saying it there this morning with Aaron Prendergast. I was saying my take on it is, and what I would do is that the GA need to come out with a statement. The GA president, Larry McCarthy, he needs to come out with a statement to go, right, from now on, you get the same punishment for what you do at a GAA match as for what you would get outside of a GAA match. So if you hit someone on the back of the head with a hurley stick at a GAA match, you get the same punishment for doing that at a GAA match that you would if you did that to someone on the street. Because the three of us know that there are people who do use the GAA as a loophole for violence, that the second that it kicks off in a match, everyone's in there. I can get the mentality. We've all played sports. We all understand that, you know, you want to look after your teammates. You want to look after your friends. You want to look after your club mates that are on the pitch and make sure that you aren't getting pushed around as a club and as a parish. But it does get to that type of gang mentality where you could see the second that one punch was landed in that clip, there was about 17 lads down around that incident. So it gets dangerous really, really quickly. My first take is that the GAA need to come out and say, we're not putting up with this anymore. Because it genuinely, the lack of action really has me believing that the GAA secretly kind of like this because it does draw more eyeballs to the sport. It does sell more tickets when teams clearly don't like each other. I mean, all you need to do, the coverage side definitely loves it anyway. I mean, all we need to talk about is the Galway Armagh brawl again, where they cut for the ad break and then they came back because they knew that a brawl was kicking off, and Darren Maloney came on and back on and was prompted to commentate again. He's saying, very unsavory scenes here. We don't like seeing this. Stop, will you? Go for the ad break then. Why are you bringing it back to watch a brawl? Because you like it, because so many people, because everyone in the country was talking about that brawl after it happened. So the GA needs to come out and they need to make it very clear that this will not be tolerated at our games anymore. That if you assault someone at a GAA match, if you batter someone on the sideline, that you get the same punishment that you would get if you battered someone on the street in normal life. That's the type that I feel like they need to go with. Luke, would you agree with that, or what kind of angle would you come from?
Yeah, look, I just to briefly touch on that as well. I think it's a good point as well, is that game as well. RT says, oh yeah, we condemn this type of behavior, when you can literally hear the ad music was started playing and they were halfway gone to the ads, and then all of a sudden you can hear that Darren Maloney's been rushed back in front of the mic to.
They're like, wait, it's kicking off, get back.
That's the thing, is that and then he's told to go back on and then say, oh, this is terrible, nobody wants to see this, as they zoom in even closer to the action as well. So it's it's
camera angles and everything, like.
Yeah, it's that people, I don't know, people love to say that, oh, nobody wants to see this, but when secretly everyone's saying, oh yeah, we love to see this. But but I do think, look, it is what we saw, I suppose, the weekend, the Brogues one, there was nothing funny about that one at all, and that there was some serious force being used in that as well. You see some of the punches that landed in that too. There was serious venom in that as well. It wasn't like the kind of handbags, I suppose, that was in I suppose the Armagh Ross Galway game wasn't the same nature, and yeah, there was punches thrown in that as well, but that was between two groups of players. Maybe some people from the background team came in and got a little bit involved too as well. But this is when it starts spilling into the crowd, that's when it's serious, and that's when it has to be clamped out. And that this is the part, I suppose, that look, it goes beyond the referee's control, it goes beyond the linesman's control. Then all of a sudden you're talked about, it's the stewards on the sideline, they're suddenly being dragged into this as well, that they have to kind of try and take control of it as volunteers. That's the real serious thing for an amateur organisation. When it starts going into that, when it leaves the pitch, that's when people have to sit up and say no more of this.
Yeah, and a great point here from Jack Nulty as well. He said the same happened here in my county. Someone went to approach a referee and he shoved him and was banned for 6 months, but from all grounds. But he saw him at a match 2 weeks later. And that's exactly a point that I'm talking about here. You need to go at it from a more psychological type point of view. Why are these fights happening? How can we stamp it out? How can we go to the coaches and say, look, we do not like this creeping in? Like, there's nothing wrong with a scuffle. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of, aggro in the game, but it's when it spills into the crowd. It's when it's, spills into, the stewards and the managers and the parents. There's nothing wrong with a bit of competitiveness and a good bit of physicality in the game, but it's when it turns nasty. It's when it turns that, parents and family and people that aren't playing are landing punches on people that are playing. That's when it gets bad. So it's one of those type of things. And all three of us know that guy down at Wexford that got banned, what was it, for 56 weeks or whatever it was, we all know he'll be back at a game within 30 weeks. Max. He'll just show up at a junior match. What, is there going to be some guy on the park gates checking for ID and stuff like that? Like, who are you? All right, yeah, you're not allowed back in here because you punched the ref 27 weeks ago. Like, this guy will be back at a game, because punishing someone by banning him from going to junior matches is pointless. It's absolutely pointless, because he's going to show up, who are you? And he's going to throw out some random name. Oh, no, that's not me. That's not me. Like, everyone knows that's going to happen. So I think the GAA realistically needs to look at it and say, look, there's nothing wrong with a bit of physicality in the game. There's nothing wrong, with a little scuffle. But it's when it turns into a full-blown brawl where you have the crowd involved, where you have, parents, family involved, coaches involved. That's when it turns bad. And I would say for future, the harshest punishments should be on the coaches, because they're the ones that have to set the example for the team. If a coach goes over and, like, for example, punches a referee and sends him to hospital, that should be the harshest punishment out of the lot, because you're the one who's supposed to be the leader of your team. And, like, I don't know, Matt, what way would you kind of go about it?
Yeah, look, that comment really hits home, really, like that. A referee or a fella that punched someone was back at the pitch a few weeks later. I mean, Jesus, it's wrong, really. And yeah, sure. Even there was an incident in Carlo where a Kerry person, I think it's Michael O'Gara is his name, from UCC. He pushed an umpire onto the post, and he could have got a serious head injury after. He got a red card afterwards, but he got like a 3-month ban afterwards. But that was rescinded to like 2 weeks because it ruined his career or something like that. I mean, he did apologise in fairness to him, but at the same time, if these sorts of things are being rescinded, and we make jokes about these things being rescinded in GAA matches, this tackle being rescinded, this punch being rescinded, and things like that, the GAA need to stick by them. No matter what player is playing, like, let's say David Clifford gets sent off in a game, or Darren McCurry for Tyrone, it doesn't matter. A player hits another individual, he should be banned for 3 games or whatever the ban may be. It shouldn't be rescinded whatsoever. It has to start with that. And as well as that, we make jokes and all that, saying, they're getting rescinded, or the GAA always say they're up with these rescissions again. I mean, it starts from that, really, I think. Like, the fact that players are getting rescinded, and that will creep into fans as well. And the fans will say, once they get a ban, why aren't the players getting bans? We need to have it fair for everybody. I mean, have it fair for everybody by implementing the same bans for punching another individual. That's all we ask for, a bit of consistency. That's all we ask for, really. And you mentioned the point about spilling onto the crowd. Once it gets to that point and it gets onto tarmac rather than grass, it gets serious. And the GAA needs to clamp down on it. If they don't clamp down on it, something serious is going to happen. I guarantee it, something deadly serious is going to happen. And the GAA will feel sorry. It's really sad, but that's the world we live in, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, one thing is absolutely for sure, and I feel like all three of us can agree on this, that if the GAA takes the action that we probably all know that they will, i.e. do absolutely nothing, throw out a couple of bans that won't stick, will happen again and again. I guarantee there will be another mass brawl before the club championship is over. Not sure what game it will be, but it will be at a certain game. The GAA does need to do more to kind of clamp down on this. Not get rid of the competitiveness and not get rid of the physicality entirely. We're not calling for that. We're calling to keep the people that attend the games. We're calling to keep those people that just want to watch their club play. We're talking about keeping them safe and keeping them away from mass brawls spilling into the crowd. Guys, that is the end of this episode here. We were joined by Matt Hurley, the GAA Statsman. You can find him on pretty much any social media platform. Matt, thanks a million for coming on with myself and Luke today.
Thanks very much, lads. Happy to help.
Lovely. All right, guys, that has been the episode here on Play on GAA. We really appreciate you stopping by and giving us your time and watching us. Until the next one, guys, take care.